Chapter 11 The Terrifying Carnivorous Vines, How to Get Rid of Them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The contained carnivorous vines were reproducing at an alarming rate, leaving everyone in disbelief. This defied biology, the law of conservation of mass. It completely shattered everything they knew about botany. Marvel Universe, aboard a private jet. How is this even possible? How can plants grow like that, and be so destructive? Tony Stark jumped to his feet, startling the flight attendant who was bringing him a drink. Ignoring her, Tony stared at the screen, horrified by the carnivorous vine's brutal efficiency. It was a living hell. No one could escape them, and once they were caught, there wasn't even time to scream. This whole world is covered in ivy, isn't it? The more Tony thought about it, the more panicked he became. He immediately contacted Jarvis. Jarvis, scan for any areas where ivy is cultivated. Use any permissions necessary. S.H.I.L.D. Headquarters. Nick Fury also pulled rank and initiated a global search to make sure this plant wasn't spreading anywhere else. It's just a plant. Gunpowder should take care of it. Nick Fury wasn't overly concerned. This was way easier than that damn crying wood carving. He couldn't believe a mere plant could withstand cannon fire. One Piece World, Marine Headquarters. A plant? I can handle it with the 8-span jewel. Kizaru was equally unimpressed. Yeah, even non-devil fruit users can just use cannonballs. Warring States agreed. This contained object wasn't much of a threat. DC Universe, Bruce Wayne was frantically scanning every security camera. Wayne Enterprises had cameras everywhere in Gotham City, allowing him to monitor every corner. The carnivorous vines reminded him of poison ivy, his old plant-based enemy. No one knew better than him how dangerous she could be. What? How long has it been? Bruce Wayne's expression turned grim as he looked at the screen. How little time had passed. This terrifying plant had already overrun most of the town. A town of tens of thousands was on its way to becoming a ghost town. The screen showed people desperately trying to fight back. They were using herbicides, chainsaws, and guns. Some even threw Molotov cocktails, trying to incinerate the ivy, but none of these methods had any effect. Instead, they seemed to enrage the carnivorous vines, making them multiply even faster. In less than 5 minutes, the entire town was transformed into an ivy jungle, and it wasn't just above ground. Even in the sewers, rats and workers alike couldn't escape. Now, the ivy seemed to have run out of food and had temporarily stopped reproducing. But the moment any creature, even a bird, flew by, it would instantly sprout more vines. This terrifying plant quickly silenced anyone who had initially dismissed it. Marvel Universe, SHIELD Headquarters. Holy crap. What the hell? Nick Fury couldn't help but yell in shock when he saw that the plant wasn't afraid of fire or explosions. A gas station on the screen had just exploded. The explosion was massive, but it had no effect on the carnivorous vines. In fact, it was extinguished. Did this mean that even tanks and missiles would be useless? Who said this was easier than the crying wood carving? Nick Fury's face darkened. At least you could avoid the crying face wood carving by not looking at it. This carnivorous vine had no such weakness and wasn't afraid of fire. How were they supposed to deal with it? Imagine this in a densely populated city. The thought of carnivorous vines spreading throughout the United States made Nick Fury shudder. The town on the screen seemed to be somewhere in the US. And the crying face wood carving had shown up there recently, so could they be next? Mobilize all satellite surveillance immediately, even if it means overriding some protocols. Panic rising, Nick Fury barked orders at Hill. Camartage. Master Ancient One, how do we fight something like this? Strange's face was pale with shock, his lips trembling. It seemed that this creature, which defied all common sense of biology, was beyond humanity's ability to fight. Don't worry. No matter how powerful it seems, it's still just a plant. It must have some weaknesses we can exploit. Gui, however, wasn't concerned. As the Sorcerer Supreme, she had dealt with many monsters, including plant-based ones. She knew how to handle this. Her only concern was how to fight it on the screen's world, Asgard. Brother, think you can handle these plants? Loki asked with a mischievous grin. Of course. I am Thor, god of thunder, Thor proudly raised Mjolnir. My lightning will blast these things to smithereens. Loki just clapped sarcastically and turned away with a sneer. He was actually hoping to see his big, dumb brother take on the plant. Maybe it would even kill him. Thor, stop fooling around, Odin snapped, looking at the enormous carnivorous vines. He had been in the 9 realms for millennia and had seen plenty of strange plants, but none as bad as this. How could such a monster appear in Midgard? But Odin wasn't worried. He held the most powerful weapon in the 9 realms, Odin's spear, Gungnir. One shot would definitely destroy the carnivorous vines, and if he didn't want to get directly involved, he could use the power of the Bifrost. Leo's world. Feng stared at the terrifying carnivorous vines in shock. How could they fight something that reproduced so fast and was so resilient? If this was in their world, it could probably cover Japan in a day. It would even use monsters as nutrients. How could he possibly stop it? Leo's flying kick wasn't exactly a wide-area attack. Would he have to resort to the L-77 light, but that would destroy the planet? Feng Yuan's anxiety grew. He had no idea how to deal with this plant. Don't worry, it's still just a plant. Dan Moriboshi tried to reassure him. He had traveled the universe for years and had encountered plant-based enemies before. He knew how to fight them, and now was a good time to add this to Feng Yuan's training. Dragon Ball World, Snake Way. Whoa, that's some powerful life force. Think I could destroy it with a Kamehameha? Goku looked at the carnivorous vines curiously. The plant didn't scare him, it excited him. No matter who the opponent was, if he sensed strength, he was ready to fight. In space, Vegeta scoffed. What a joke. Broken plants are nothing. As long as I destroy the Earth, they'll cease to exist. Back on the screen, armed helicopters and transport planes appeared thousands of feet above the carnivorous vines. Painted on their sides were the words, Special Containment Procedures Foundation. Everyone's eyes widened. They knew that the screen was created by the SCP Foundation, but they didn't expect them to show up. What kind of power did these beings possess, that they could broadcast videos and make predictions across the universe? Now, they were about to find out. Chapter 12 Cryogenic Containment, Predicting the Appearance Location. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Task Force Beta 7 is locked and loaded, firing cooling missiles. Electronic chatter filled the fighter planes. Each plane targeted a different spot in town, releasing a stream of small missiles. The missiles hit, erupting in a thick fog that instantly blanketed the entire town in white. Everything inside that fog was flash frozen. Houses, yards, cars, everything, including the carnivorous vines. These vines, which had previously shrugged off every attack and fought back fiercely, were now helpless against the ice. Even the slightest twitch resulted in immediate freezing. Soon, more and more of the vines and ivy were encased in ice. Then, hundreds of soldiers in special forces gear and gas masks swarmed in from all sides, carrying bulky devices that looked like rocket launchers. Their arrival triggered a violent reaction from the frozen vines, cracking the ice around them. Even frozen solid, they still sensed prey, their strange vitality kicking in. Keep the freeze coming. Don't let them break through. A captain shouted the order. He and the others unleashed blasts of freezing gas from their weapons. The struggling vines were once again locked in ice, barely able to move, but the soldiers, taking no chances, kept spraying, making sure every vine was completely frozen solid. Start cutting. One of the soldiers pulled out a chainsaw and fired it up. Others had tried this before, but the chainsaws always shattered on impact. This time, the chainsaw sliced through the vines with minimal effort. The severed section quivered momentarily, then went still. Immediately, the remaining vines sprouted new growth to retaliate. The soldiers nearby quickly blasted them with more freezing gas. Remember, cut off pieces are dead, but the rest will keep fighting. Copy that. Missile strike in 30 seconds. Evacuate now. The fighter planes returned, launching more ice fog missiles, ignoring the task force still in the town. Unfazed, the soldiers quickly bailed out of town. As soon as they were clear, the planes unleashed a relentless missile barrage, blanketing every inch of the town. Explosions rocked the area, sending debris and ice fragments flying. The once peaceful town was instantly transformed into a fiery inferno. The scene drew shocked reactions. Feng Yuan, are you kidding me? They just bombed the whole place. I hope there's still survivors in there. Zhu Xingtuan, Feng Yuan, calm down. It's brutal, but at this point, no one could have survived. Nick Fury, he's right. In a situation like that, rescue is impossible. Feng Yuan, but... He was clearly frustrated that even his captain had accepted it, still hoping someone had lived through the inferno. The stars beside him sighed, understanding there were things they couldn't control. Warring states. Wait. What's that flying thing? What kind of weapon is that? Jiraiya, that's more powerful than any S-rank ninjutsu. Patton, what are you talking about? Those are fighter planes and missiles. How do you not know that? Natasha, you're a marine, right? How do you not know about aerial warfare? Warring states, aerial warfare. We don't have anything like that. Jiraiya, fighter. What's that? Luffy, is it powered by wind? Does it look like Enel's ship, but it's awesome. Frankie, Usopp, and Chopper, yeah. Totally a guy thing. Many people were baffled by these comments. How could someone not know what a fighter jet was? Marvel Universe, Tony Stark was confused. Were these guys from Pirate World and Naruto World primitives? Hold on, one said pirates, the other ninjas. Are they like, from ancient times? Tony Stark's mouth twisted into a wry smile. If so, it made sense. Why is this system pulling people from past eras? This is really awkward. One Piece World, Navy Headquarters. Sengoku looked at the screen grimly. The others seemed familiar with things like fighter planes, but he was clueless. There weren't many flying vehicles in their world. Most of the time, they use big birds, or moonwalk. The only one he knew that was an air vehicle was the ship that Shiki had flown. That's a fighter jet speed, way faster than any ship. Kizaru admired. And those missiles, the firepower is incredible. Akainu looked serious. Only an all-out assault could deliver that kind of town-wide destruction, but these missiles made it look easy. The weapon's power made him covet it. Marshal, we need to develop something like that. We'd be able to fight pirates so much more effectively. Akainu was excited. Just imagine, pirates running on the sea, the navy chasing and bombing them from the air, with no chance to strike back. What a great thing. Sengoku agreed with Akainu. He would visit Vegapunk personally and have him research that weapon. Back in the video, the town was engulfed in flames, and many vines were collapsing. Everyone assumed the crisis had passed, but then, in the sea of fire, a horde of vines suddenly emerged, charging straight at the mobile task force. Freeze them! Freeze them! The soldiers frantically blasted the vines with ice, but some of the vines fought through the ice and killed the task force members. Immediately, the fighter planes fired more cooling missiles, freezing the newly grown vines again, and then the team didn't make any rash moves. Missile bombing only served to give the vines a chance to escape. The vines' terrifying ability to regenerate had exceeded all expectations. After extensive study, scientists concluded that as long as the root system remained, the vines would regenerate indefinitely, and the root system was indestructible. So, at the containment meeting, they decided to cut off all the vines, and take the root system away. The video ended, and the cold voice spoke again. Now, predict future carnivorous vine outbreaks. Everyone shuddered, especially Nick Fury, who was particularly anxious. Chapter 13 Appearing in the Pirate World. Ace captured by Blackbeard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's not coming here again. Nick Fury looked even grimmer than usual. Learning from the previous 173 warnings, he dreaded the possibility of it hitting his turf. If that thing shows up at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the casualties will be catastrophic. Get the cooling gas ready, now. Fury barked the order to Hill, preparing for the worst. Meanwhile, at Kamartaj. So, this plant is vulnerable to cold temperatures. Wong's eyes lit up as he read the report. In that case, we could use freezing magic, or even open a portal and bury the vines under Himalayan snow. That won't be enough. We need to keep the roots frozen solid. The Ancient One shook her head. She knew the freezing would only be a temporary setback, the plant could endure. They had to target the root system, but no matter. If it appears in this world, she'd deal with it herself. Over in Asgard, Odin wasn't particularly worried about this vine monster. Sure, these vines were tough, but nothing his Odin force couldn't handle. "Brother, think you can take this thing if it pops up here?" Loki asked with a sly grin. "Of course. I'll smash it to pieces with Mjolnir." Thor was itching for a fight, almost eager for it to appear in Asgard. Odin, observing this, sighed. Maybe he was rushing things with Thor. Inside Tony Stark's private jet. "Jarvis, I need a weapons design document now. I want a cooling weapon, stat." "Acknowledged, sir." After witnessing the vine's destructive power, Tony decided he needed a weapon to counter it. Otherwise, he'd be defenseless. Too bad he wasn't already prepared. "Damn, I should have been thinking about weapon defense this whole time." Tony smacked himself on the forehead. He'd been too caught up in his own problems to prepare for potential threats in the DC universe. Bruce Wayne was furiously typing on his keyboard. He was creating a detailed countermeasure plan for the carnivorous vines, and Wayne Enterprises was already working on cooling weapon prototypes. "If it shows up in my world, I'm grabbing Mr. Freeze's equipment first." Bruce thought of one of his old enemies, who had freezing technology. He was currently locked up at the police station. Bruce quickly looked up Commissioner Gordon's contact info, just in case. Prediction: Pirate World. A collective sigh of relief rippled through many, glad it wasn't their world, but the Straw Hats weren't so calm. Aboard the Thousand Sunny. "What? Our world?" Usopp, Nami, and Chopper huddled together, tears streaming down their faces. How could they possibly survive if that thing showed up? "It's here. The orange tree is moving." Suddenly, Brooke saw the vines on Nami's tangerine tree twitching and screamed, thinking the monster had arrived. "Gunpowder Star." Hearing this, Usopp panicked and launched an explosive attack, setting the orange tree ablaze. "It's just the wind. And my orange tree." Seeing her beloved tree destroyed, Nami transformed into a demon, punching Usopp into the ground. She quickly used her weather staff to summon rain. Sanji rushed to put out the fire, and, while fetching water, made sure to kick Usopp a few times. This is going to be good. Let's see if my swords can cut it." Zoro, on the other hand, was fired up, ready for a fight. "Super. Bring it on." Frankie squared off, steeling himself. "I'm ready for it." Luffy jumped to his feet, eager for a challenge. "Hold your horses, guys. It might not even be near us." Robin scanned the screen. The scene shifted to an island. A small boat pulled up to shore. The fat, sleazy-looking man swaggered off the boat. "The Navy's meeting us right here, Ace. Enjoy your last moments of freedom." The man sneered at the boat. A man with a bare chest, skull tattoo on his back, sat handcuffed at the stern, looking weak. "Ace!" Luffy shouted in shock at the sight of the prisoner. It was his brother, Fire Fist Ace. Why was he captured? "That's the guy from Mock Town." Zoro recognized him. They ran into him before heading to Sky Island when they tried to pick a fight with them. Why was Ace captured? Why didn't he fight back? Luffy jumped up and down, desperately wanting to rescue Ace. He's probably wearing sea stone cuffs. Robin immediately recognized the situation. Who is that guy, and why does he want to catch your brother? Nami was confused. Ace was incredibly strong. How could he be caught so easily? At Navy headquarters. Fire Fist Ace. That's Teach, the one calling himself Blackbeard. Fleet Admiral Sengoku's expression turned grim. He hadn't expected Fire Fist Ace to get involved. He remembered that Teach captured Ace a few days ago to secure a position as a warlord of the sea. The world government agreed to meet him at the Carry Islands to hand over Ace, but now carnivorous vines were about to appear there. Damn it! If Fire Fist Ace escapes in the chaos, we're in deep trouble. But the reinforcements we're sending aren't strong enough to deal with that monster. Sengoku recalled the Vine's power and knew that any Navy personnel below the rank of Vice Admiral would be fodder. That's it. Kuzan, Sengoku immediately thought of Akiji. He had the power of the ice fruit and was one of the few people who could deal with the carnivorous vines. He quickly grabbed a den mushi. "Hey, Fleet Admiral, what's up?" Akiji asked lazily. "Are you with Garp?" "Head to the Kari Islands immediately," Sengoku ordered. They were currently returning from the 7 water islands and were scheduled to pass by the Kari Islands on the way. They should be able to provide support soon. "Huh? Isn't that where they're handing over Fire Fist Ace?" "What's going on?" Akiji asked, puzzled. He glanced at Garp, who was silent and lost in thought. "Don't worry about it. There's a monster on that island, more dangerous than Fire Fist Ace. You're the only one who can stop it. Get there now." Hearing this, Akiji's lazy demeanor vanished. "Understood. I'm on my way." Akiji stood up immediately. When he turned to speak to Garp, he realized the older man was gone. Garp was already a tiny dot in the sky, flying ahead. "Geez, that's one dedicated grandpa. Even though he's not even a blood relative." Akiji shook his head and used Jeppo to catch up with Garp. Back on the Kari Islands, Teach led his crew off the ship, ready for a bite to eat while they waited for the Navy. Something's not right. Teach suddenly stopped, sensing danger. He drew his pistol and scanned the area. A large group of people ran towards them, terror etched on their faces. They looked like they were being chased by something. Boom! The building behind the fleeing group exploded, and countless vines erupted, snatching up anyone who couldn't escape. "What kind of monster is that?" Teach stared in disbelief. He had traveled the New World and the Grand Line and had seen plenty of plant monsters, but nothing like this. "Jump, now!" Tiki sensed danger and leaped into the air. The other crew members followed suit, just as vines burst from the ground, tearing up the earth and reaching for them. Chapter 14 Esther escapes from trouble, and the jealous Diana. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The carnivorous vines shot up with incredible speed, quickly towering over Blackbeard and his crew, ready to ensnare them. Watching this, the audience in the One Piece world figured they were goners. I mean, how could a bunch of guys with swords deal with something like that? Dark void. Just then, Teach unleashed a massive wave of dark energy, engulfing himself and his crew in its inky blackness. The vines were sucked into the darkness, disappearing without a trace. The darkness seemed bottomless, swallowing vine after vine without breaking. Suddenly, the vines changed targets, swarming toward Ace, who was outside the range of Teach's darkness. In seconds, several thick vines had him completely wrapped up. "Ace!" Luffy freaked out. Ace couldn't use his powers with those sea prism stone cuffs on. If he got caught, he was toast. Luffy panicked, pounding on the screen, hoping to help Ace somehow, but it was no use. Ace was in agony, his body being crushed. He was close to passing out from the pain. Snap, star, the sound of something breaking echoed, and Ace's eyes flashed with fire. Hoo-ha! Ace burst into flames, blasting outward, making it impossible for the vines to hold on. Then, like a fiery meteor, he flew across the landscape, landing on a small hill and reverting to his human form. "I got away." Ace was relieved, but before he could celebrate, a barrage of vines came hurtling toward him, piercing straight through his body. Anyone else would have been dead, but Ace was a fireman, thanks to the flare fruit. When he's in his elemental form, attacks just pass right through him. "I don't know what you are, but you're dangerous." Fire Fist. Sensing the danger, Ace threw a punch, unleashing a massive torrent of flames at the vines. The sea of fire engulfed countless vines. But to Ace's surprise, the flames didn't seem to affect them. They kept pushing through the fire, closing in on him. Forced to act fast, Ace turned into flames again and took to the air, putting some distance between himself and the vines, and continued to launch fire attacks. "Release!" Teach's voice boomed out, and his black hole spat out a massive amount of shredded vines, knocking away the other approaching vines and giving them a chance to escape. They needed to get as far away from those things as possible. "What is this thing? And how did Ace get free?" Teach eyed Ace anxiously. If Ace got away, his plan would be ruined, but these vines were tougher than he thought. On 1000 Sunny, when Luffy saw Ace escape, he threw his hands in the air, cheering. Yes! Ace got away! Woohoo! He grabbed Usopp and Chopper and broke out into a happy dance. Phew, good thing that Sea Prism Stone broke first, otherwise Ace wouldn't have been able to use his powers. Nami sighed in relief. If Ace had died, she didn't know what would have happened to their stubborn captain. The danger's not over. Ace can't seem to shake those vines, Zoro said gravely, while also keeping an eye on Teach. That guy was definitely up to something. No sweat. Ace will be fine. Luffy was confident that as long as Ace wasn't held back by Sea Prism Stone, he would survive. At Navy headquarters, Sengoku glared at the screen, his face grim. Fire Fist Ace had escaped. That chance was gone. Where's Akiji? Tell him to get there now. Sengoku urged Akiji to hurry. If he could capture the carnivorous vines, and maybe even Ace, that would be ideal. And Garp's probably on his way, too. I hope he doesn't make things worse, Sengoku thought with a sigh. He knew better than anyone how much Garp valued family. The only thing that could restrain him was his sense of justice. Meanwhile, viewers from other worlds were bombarding the chat with questions. They'd assumed the people on the screen were doomed, but they'd suddenly unleashed all sorts of powers. Tony Stark, what the heck is going on? What did the fat guy do, and why did the naked guy turn into flames? Jiraiya, what kind of ninjutsu is that? Fire style doesn't do that. That darkness thing kinda looks like Ian style. Nick Fury, Jiraiya, I don't even understand what you're talking about with this ninjutsu. This is superpowers. Sun Wukong, superpowers are like dumplings. Bruce Wayne, what's with the food references? Luffy, you're from the same world, right? Can you explain any of this? Luffy, it's the devil fruits I mentioned earlier. Eat one, and you get crazy powers. Ace ate the flare fruit, which turned him into a fireman. Tony Stark, what superpower does the fat guy have? What's the black stuff he's using? Luffy, I don't know about that one. Robin, I think it's the power of the dark fruit. It's said to release darkness and absorb anything. Everyone remembered Luffy mentioning devil fruits before, but they hadn't paid much attention. Now they realized just how powerful these devil fruits could be. At Carmitage, Ancient One shook his fan, contemplating the screen. Darkness? It's nothing like Dormammu's. But getting superpowers just by eating a fruit, that's like a magical trinket. Ancient One knew all about magical items that grant power, but eating it like that was unique. Luffy said that if you eat a devil fruit, you get weak when you touch seawater. That price is negligible for striking a deal with the devil. If she could get immense magical power for that price, she would do it in a heartbeat. In the DC world, Diana watched the screen, urging Ace to keep using the flames. A devil fruit? How interesting. But he seems to be a pirate. Diana frowned. Such power in the hands of a pirate. How could anyone live in a world like that? I wish I was there. Diana hated evil, and in her eyes, pirates were the epitome of evil. She secretly hoped that the pirates on the screen and the vines would destroy each other. Chapter 15 Ace's Desperate Fight, Teach's Plot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the Batman cave, Bruce Wayne is recording the data from the video, saying, devil fruits and pirates. That's a recipe for disaster. Wayne shares Diana's view. Pirates are criminals who need to be brought to justice. He glances at the barrage comments on the screen featuring Sengoku. This guy's a marine. Hopefully, he can handle a pirate this powerful. Meanwhile, in the world of pirates, Ace is desperately trying to evade vines attacking him from all directions. It's more of a frantic escape than a fight. These vines are a real problem. No matter how much he burns them, they just keep coming. Elementalization is his only option for survival. Damn it. What kind of messed up plant is this? Ace is clearly frustrated. When was the last time he had to run away from a fight? Not even Whitebeard put him through this. It's infuriating. There's no way my flames can't destroy you. Flame ring. Ace unleashes a massive burst of fire in a tornado-like ring, pushing the vines back. Emperor Flame, he gathers all the flames above him, forming a gigantic fireball that resembles the sun. Good thing there aren't any civilians left on this island. Looks like this monster wiped them all out. Ace's face darkens at the thought. I don't care what you are. Just disappear. Ace drops Emperor Flame, sending it crashing into the sea of carnivorous vines below. Buzz buzz buzz. The impact causes a massive earthquake, shaking the entire island. A sky-high inferno erupts with a terrifying explosion. Boom boom boom. The island trembles violently, on the verge of collapse. Waves of flame surge outwards, engulfing everything in a sea of fire. The carnivorous vines are devastated. What were once strong, resilient tendrils are now charred and useless. The audience is stunned. Aboard the Thousand Sunny, Luffy gapes at the screen. Even he didn't realize Ace was this strong. Is that really how powerful Ace is? Sanji is so shocked he doesn't even notice his cigarette has fallen. Incredible strength. He lives up to his reputation as a member of the Whitebeard pirates. Zoro, feeling the pressure, wipes his brow. Then, it hits him, if Ace is this strong and still got caught, just how powerful is the one who caught him? Back in the Marvel Universe, at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Nick Fury loses his cool. Holy crap. What the hell? The explosion's power dwarfs even a missile strike. The scale of destruction is close to a nuclear blast. Are all devil fruit users this strong? Barton, Natasha, and Hill are equally stunned. How could they possibly fight against that kind of power? Barton and Natasha, initially pleased with their new powers, now feel like they're playing with toys compared to these abilities. Is this what it means to be a devil fruit user? If pirates like this show up in their world, how can they even hope to win? On a private jet, Tony Stark can no longer keep calm. He realizes he has no defense against the Emperor Flame's power. Jarvis, I need you to design a cooling weapon. Make it large-scale and armor-compatible, ASAP. Stark tasks Jarvis with the project. The only way to fight such a flame is to cool it down in advance. He needs these cooling weapons developed, and he needs them now, even though it's not his world. Tony Stark wants to be prepared. Bruce Wayne shares this sentiment. He's already formulating plans to counter Ace. It's a different world, but he worries that if these pirates ever show up in his world, there needs to be a way to fight them. Lucius, how's the cooling weapon development coming along? I need it expedited. Large scale, portable. Don't ask questions, just tell them it's for the fire department. While researching, Bruce calls Lucius to check on the cooling weapons, prompting complaints on the other end. Equipping the fire department with cooling weapons? That's just crazy. In the world of Naruto, Naruto stares at the explosion, speechless. Hey, pervy sage, could you handle that? Naruto asks hesitantly, knowing he definitely couldn't. Jiraiya's face twitches. The power of that Emperor Flame is way beyond any fire style he knows. His only option would be to run. Of course, no problem at all. He has to save face in front of his student. Naruto's eyes widen with admiration, causing Jiraiya to look away in embarrassment. Tsunade rolls her eyes and then studies the screen intently. She thinks only her great-grandfather, Hashirama Senju, could stand a chance. Is the pirate world really that powerful? I hope they never show up here. Tsunade worries about what would happen if someone like that appeared in their world. There's always the possibility of these contained objects showing up out of nowhere. The thought suddenly makes her feel uneasy about the future. Maybe she should stop slacking off. Back on the screen, Ace kneels on the ground, exhausted and panting. Using that move really takes a toll on his stamina. That's why Teach was able to capture him so easily. Is that it? Ace looks at the charred vines around him, but then sees the vines writhing in the distance, his face changing drastically. This monster is too much. Time to get out of here. Reluctantly, Ace turns and runs. Captain Ace, where do you think you're going? Teach suddenly appears behind Ace. Oh crap. Ace remembers that just as Tiki was about to attack, he punched him into the ground. Dark water. Teach grabs Ace's neck and nullifies his ability, leaving Ace defenseless. Caught you a second time. Haven't you learned your lesson? Even with this mess going on, nothing's stopping me from taking you. Teach glances around, realizing he needs to leave quickly. Damn it. Ace grits his teeth, furious about being captured again. Back on the Thousand Sunny, Luffy screams in anguish, seeing Ace get captured. He punches the screen in frustration. Something's not right. How did Ace get caught? He can turn into fire. Frankie senses something is off. It's the darkness in Tiki's hand. Robin chimes in, explaining her theory. Ace. Run. Luffy doesn't understand any of it. All he can do is yell and hope Ace escapes, making him feel utterly useless. Let's go. Captain Ace, congrats on being a free man. For a while. Teach hoists Ace up and prepares to leave. Ace. An old, yet powerful voice, echoes across the entire island. Hearing the voice, Teach trembles, a primal fear resurfacing. You're always making trouble. You can forget about running away now that you're in my hands. The Navy hero, Garp, leaps from the sky. Chapter 16 Garp's Iron Fist. The audience was shocked. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ace was stunned to see Garp flying through the air. The old geezer. What's he doing here? Whoa. It's Hero Garp. Teach looked genuinely shocked to see Garp show up. He really didn't want to face someone that terrifying. Whirring. Suddenly, the area buzzed with activity as the carnivorous vines that Ace had incinerated with his Flame Emperor began to rapidly regrow and multiply. In a heartbeat, they were back to where they started. What kind of freaky plant is this? Tiki's eyes widened. He knew better than anyone how devastating Ace's Flame Emperor attack was, but even that wasn't enough to wipe out these vines. It scared him. Is this the plant monster Warring States was talking about? Definitely a weirdo. Garp glanced at the swarm of vines closing in and grinned, raising a fist. Doesn't matter what kind of monster it is, I'll crush it with my fist. He focused all his power into his fist, compressing his haki until it was overwhelmingly strong. Iron Fist Smash. Garp unleashed the punch, sending out a shockwave that crashed down like a meteor. Bang, 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 bang. A series of earth-shattering explosions ripped through the area. The carnivorous vines detonated under Garp's Iron Fist, and even the ground beneath them crumbled. Garp's direct hit had blasted out a massive crater. Ugh. Teach coughed up blood and went flying. The pain was excruciating. The dark fruit absorbs everything, amplifying his pain threefold. Garp's full power attack was already more than he could handle, but now he was feeling it 3 times over. Even if he survived, he'd be crippled. Garp grinned, satisfied with his handiwork, but his expression changed in an instant. The carnivorous vines were already growing back like crazy, filling the void and swarming towards him. TSK, Warring States wasn't kidding. This thing's got crazy regeneration. Thought he was exaggerating. Garp's expression turned serious. He'd never seen anything survive his full power attack before. Kuzan. I'm leaving it to you. At Garp's shout, a light blue figure shot from the sea towards the island. Ice Age. It was Akiji. The moment he landed, a wave of freezing air burst out, instantly encasing swathes of vines in ice. Freezing the whole island is gonna be a chore. Akiji surveyed the vines covering the landscape, took a deep breath, and unleashed an even bigger blast of cold air. The intense cold spread like a tornado, rapidly freezing more and more vines. The remaining vines, sensing the threat, swarmed Akiji. Even as some started to freeze, others managed to get dangerously close. Fist Bone. Garp intervened, unleashing a barrage of powerful air cannons, blasting away any vines that got near Akiji and ensuring he could keep freezing the island. Working together, Akiji's freezing air spread across the island, encasing all the carnivorous vines. Iron Fist Smash. Chain. Seeing so many vines frozen solid, Garp unleashed a furious series of punches with all his might. Boom. 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 Explosions rocked the island as if a meteor shower was hitting the surface, causing the ground to shake. The frozen vines shattered under the relentless assault. The incredible vitality of the vines was on full display as they tried to regenerate from the broken ice, but Akiji kept the cold air flowing, immediately refreezing the vines as they tried to recover. In the blink of an eye, the massive forest of carnivorous vines had thinned out significantly. Finally, everything went quiet. Thousand Sunny. Holy crap, is that the real power of Akiji and Luffy's grandpa? Zoro lost his cool, staring at the screen with wide eyes. They'd fought Akiji before and been completely outmatched. Akiji must have been holding back, or they wouldn't have stood a chance, but even more shocking was Garp's strength. He was causing that much destruction with just his bare hands. Was that what it meant to be a naval hero? Zoro wasn't the only one stunned. Everyone was speechless. Luffy, did you know your grandpa was that strong? Usopp asked, his voice trembling. If Garp had been serious back then, they never would have escaped. This is the first time I've seen it, too. Luffy looked stunned. He was only just realizing how he had survived his grandfather's training as a kid. The scene was causing a stir. Nick Fury, what is up with that old guy? How can he have that much destructive power? Is that some kind of devil fruit? Nick Fury voiced the questions on everyone's minds. Akiji's ice powers were shocking, but they'd already seen crazy powers before, but Garp was tearing things up with just his fists. Was it a devil fruit thing? Sengoku, of course not. Garp is a strong man who has trained himself to the absolute limit. He doesn't use devil fruit abilities. Tony Stark, train yourself. No way, a human can't be that strong. Zoro, says who? You can do anything if you train hard enough. Sun Wukong, that's right, you can get that kind of power too. That old guy's really impressive. I'd love to go around with him. Tsunade, causing that much damage with your fists. Sounds like me. Bruce Wayne, wait, humans in your universe can train to that extent. Bruce Wayne stared at the screen, his eyes wide. He'd learned countless martial arts, pushed himself to the limit through constant training and a strict diet to fight crime. He thought he was at the peak of human capability, but now he was seeing Garp, who defied all expectations. And other people in his universe, even in other universes, seemed to think it was normal. Universes are so different. Bruce Wayne realized the gap between realities, and a shiver of fear went down his spine. Marvel, S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury's face was grim. Garp's destructive power was on a whole other level compared to the Hulk's rampage a while back. Could a human really do that? It was insane. Can humans train to this extent? Nick Fury looked at Natasha and Barton. They were the most skilled people in S.H.I.E.L.D., so their opinion mattered. Natasha and Barton shook their heads. They didn't think they could reach Garp's level if they trained for 10,000 years. Chapter 17 Successful Containment, Rewards for 3 people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The magic apprentices at Kamatage were blown away by Garp's display. They could wrap their heads around devil fruit powers. After all, they gained abilities by accepting knowledge from beyond the human realm, just like those pirates, but Garp developing that kind of power himself. And the Dragon Ball and Naruto folks being able to do it too. That was just insane. Master Ancient One, are the differences between universes really that huge? Mordo asked, clearly stunned. Ancient One, also taken aback, snapped back to reality after Mordo's question, snapping his fan closed and said, the multiverse is infinite and different universes have different rules. It appears their universes have different training methods, capable of pushing humans on Earth to the point of destroying the planet's surface. The other mages gaped, equally astonished. In Asgard, the Asgardians were similarly floored by Garp's performance. They'd always considered Earthlings weak, not even worth their time. Thor was speechless. He wondered if he could even withstand a punch from Garp. Probably not. Brother, those humans from the pirate world are strong. Think you could take them? Loki asked with a sly grin. Of course. I'm the mightiest warrior in Asgard. I'm not afraid of a few Earthlings. Thor declared, regaining his bravado and shaking his hammer for emphasis. He couldn't appear cowardly in front of Loki. In the L-77 sector, both Jen and the star cluster land were stunned by the visual. Earthlings with that kind of power? It was beyond comprehension. If everyone on Earth in our universe was as strong as Garp, we wouldn't have to worry about monsters and aliens. Jen exclaimed, excited by the thought. Easy there. Our situation is different, Star Cluster quickly countered. He believed in humanity's potential, but this was going too far. Jen nodded, conceding the point. Garp's attack sparked an idea. Leo struggled with close combat due to his limited energy for long-range energy attacks. If he could punch from a distance, like Garp, obliterating opponents with shockwaves, it would solve his range issues. Jen imagined performing the Leo kick, the impact of the shockwave crushing his opponent before his feet even landed. Clenching his fists, Jen was determined. If someone from Earth could do it, so could he. In Nobita's bedroom, Doraemon, can I train to be like that too? Nobita asked, eyes wide with hope. If he were that strong, he wouldn't be afraid of John, and maybe he could even win Shizuka's heart. Don't get your hopes up. Humans in our universe can't train to that extent, Doraemon immediately replied. Nobita's shoulders slumped in disappointment. Back on the island where Garp stood, that's one nasty monster, Akiji said, staring at the carnivorous vines. He'd never seen anything so terrifying. Even Garp's iron fist couldn't completely destroy it. I'll have to ask Sengoku what that was all about when I get back. He called it a containment object from another universe. Didn't make any sense, Garp said, scratching his head, a puzzled look on his face as he stared at the iced-over vines. So, Mr. Garp, what should we do with that guy? Akiji asked, pointing to Ace. When he'd frozen the vines, he'd intentionally avoided Ace, who had been using his flames to resist the cold. Garp scowled at Ace. He had orders from Sengoku to capture him alive. He knew what would happen if he did, but his marine duty conflicted with his feelings, and he clenched his fists in frustration. Containment of the carnivorous vine successful. Rewards distributed. Primary contributors, Kazan and Garp. Secondary contributor, Ace. The voice echoed in Garp, Akiji, and Ace's minds. The sudden announcement made them look around warily. Rewards distributed. Garp receives the Ox Talisman. Akiji receives absolute zero freezing air. Ace's flame evolves into 3,000 flames. That the voice faded away, Akiji and Ace both felt a surge of new knowledge, and Garp found something in his hand. The Ox Talisman, wearing it amplifies the user's strength 100-fold. Absolute zero, the theoretical lowest temperature in physics. At this level, all energy ceases to exist, and everything freezes. 3,000 flames, a flame born in the starry sky. It absorbs stellar energy to grow stronger and possesses incredible regenerative abilities, essentially granting the user an immortal body. Ace felt an immediate change in his flames. A wild energy surged through him, demanding release. Arg! Ace roared, purple flames erupting from his body, burning brighter than ever. His injuries and exhaustion were instantly being healed. Careful! Akiji warned, sensing the danger of the flames. He didn't dare take any chances, unleashing his cold air to combat it. He was surprised to realize that his chill felt colder than ever, the flames instantly freezing before they even touched his body. I don't know what just happened, but see ya, old man. Ace yelled, turning into a stream of fire and blasting into the sky. Free at last, he needed to get as far away as possible. He could sense that Akiji and Garp were far more dangerous than before, so he couldn't stick around to figure out what these power-ups had done. Ace! Get back here! Garp roared as Ace tried to escape, throwing a punch in anger. The Ox Talisman flared, and his punch launched a missile-like air cannon, hitting Ace instantly. Boom! The thunderous explosion sent Ace plummeting, blood spraying from his mouth. The 3,000 flames immediately kicked in, healing his wounds and allowing him to regain flight. Garp stared at his fist, then at the Ox Talisman, confused. How had he suddenly gotten so much stronger? The punch itself hadn't felt any different, but the effect was massive. Was it because of this talisman? Vice Admiral Garp, should we pursue Fire Fist Ace? Akiji asked. He's too far gone to catch now, so forget it. Garp answered, finding an excuse to give up, which made Akiji shrug. Besides, that plant is even more dangerous, and there's those Blackbeard pirates to think about. Garp glared at the frozen Blackbeard pirates, a murderous glint in his eyes. Chapter 18. The next contained object, Balrog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, here's the Americanized translation, Chapter 18. Next up, the Balrog. Garp glanced at Teach and the others, a knot forming in his stomach. They almost hauled Ace back to Navy HQ. He knew better than anyone what that would mean. Tiki, huh? Well, you're mine now. Don't even think about getting away. Garp spat out, his voice like gravel. Xie remained silent, but his gaze was drawn to the icy aura radiating from his own body. Meanwhile, aboard the Thousand Sunny. Yes. Ace is in the clear. Luffy bellowed, pumping his fist in the air. Then, he, Usopp, and Chopper threw their arms around each other, breaking into some goofy victory dance. Ace is getting stronger, and so are the Marines, Zoro muttered, feeling a surge of pressure seeing how much Ace and those three on the screen had leveled up, but the pressure didn't scare him, it lit a fire under him. If I could take down one of those containment objects, how strong could I get? That the comment section was blowing up. Tony Stark, what? Absolute Zero? Seriously? That's a pipe dream. It's practically science fiction. Luffy, Absolute Zero? What's that? Tony Stark, it's the theoretical lowest temperature possible. Like, minus 459.67 degrees Fahrenheit. It can freeze anything. Any living thing that touches it dies instantly. Even light itself could be frozen, maybe even the sun. Tony Stark was practically vibrating with disbelief and excitement. As a scientist, he knew just how insane Absolute Zero was, how impossible it was to achieve. It was the holy grail of impossible physics. And this screen is telling me someone can give you Absolute Zero. The thought sent a shiver down Tony's spine, followed by a rush of anticipation. If I got a reward, what would it be? Could it help me leapfrog ahead technologically? That he started eyeing the screen, wondering if any future containment objects would be something he could handle. Sun Wukong, freeze the sun. How powerful is that? Ancient One, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That only applies if this green pheasant can generate the same output as the sun. Otherwise, it's like trying to put out a bonfire with a water pistol. Gu Yi's words seemed to calm a few nerves, especially in the pirate world. Akiji, that powerful would be game over. Still, he couldn't be ignored. Kizaru, even light can be frozen. Kizaru was visibly rattled. His whole deal was being made of light. If Akiji could freeze light, wouldn't that be a huge problem for him? Even Akainu looked grim. If Tony Stark was right, his magma might be useless against Akiji now, but the Warring States period was ecstatic. The Navy getting stronger was always a win. Especially Garp, whose Iron Fist was already legendary. Now it was amplified tenfold. Kaido, Whitebeard, they wouldn't stand a chance. The Navy could finally wipe out all the pirates. Sengoku was already daydreaming about more containment objects. This was a golden opportunity to boost the Navy's power. He couldn't forget about Fire Fist Ace, though. He didn't know what 3,000 flames was, but Ace getting more powerful was a major headache. He took a deep breath and grabbed the phone. Issue an order, raise the bounty on Fire Fist Ace. 1 billion berries. The comments kept pouring in. Naruto, I don't get it, but it sounds awesome. Vegeta, just some ice. I could shatter it. Star Cluster, Vegeta, if you tried to attack something at Absolute Zero, your attack would freeze solid instantly. Vegeta, I don't buy the hype. Absolute Zero and containment objects are nothing compared to yours truly, Vegeta. Diana, you sound like an arrogant fool. Vegeta, you dare mock me? If you were in my universe, you'd be dust. Diana, try me. I've taken down countless creatures trying to invade Earth. If we were in the same universe, you'd be one of them. Bruce Wayne, wait, you've fought off alien invasions. Who the hell are you? Diana, that's none of your business. Meanwhile, in the DC world, Bruce Wayne stared at the screen in shock. Diana's prefix said DC, she was from his universe. And apparently, someone was defending Earth from cosmic threats. Maybe his world wasn't as simple as he thought. He immediately began digging into everything he could find about Diana. He had to know who she was. Back in the Marvel world, Gui watched Diana's comments with interest. Could she be another Sorcerer Supreme, like me? Intriguing. While everyone was chatting, the screen flickered back to life with a cold electronic voice, at Xie Yun's place. Congratulations, host. You've unlocked carnivorous vine control. Unleash vines to do your bidding and retract them at will. That the system notification popped up, and a vine slithered out of Xie Yun's sleeve, swaying obediently. Attack, Xie Yun commanded. The vine shot out, fast as a bullet. Split, the vine instantly branched into several smaller strands. Return, the vine zipped back into Xie Yun's sleeve. He grinned, satisfied. This was a seriously effective and unpredictable weapon. I can't wait to see what's next. Xie Yun said, his eyes glued to the screen. The other worlds had better step up their game. If they don't, how am I gonna get those rewards? Predicting next containment object, Pyro. The cold electronic voice echoed from the screen. Everyone's attention snapped to the screen as the next contained object was revealed. Some were eager for a chance to earn a reward, while others prayed they wouldn't have to deal with it. The contained Fire Man is a creature indistinguishable from flame. Its physiological structure is completely incomprehensible. It is obviously flame, but it is alive. Its only food is flammable substances, and there is no bottom line. Ingestion. This process is dangerous and fatal. In order to obtain flammable materials, the pyromaniac will keep moving and unintentionally cause fires. As the range of his movement increases, the scope of the fire increases. There was once a town that was burned. People were drowned in the sea of fire. The scene shifted to a forest, where a group of young people were having a party. Everything seemed normal. A tiny spark popped from the barbecue pit. Nobody paid it any mind. Sparks always fizzle out when they hit the ground, right? But this spark, it jumped, like a living thing, toward a pile of propane tanks nearby. Boom, a massive explosion ripped through the air. The young people were engulfed in flames. The spark ballooned, feeding on corpses, tents, trees, anything it could find, growing stronger with each bite. And as it moved, it spread the fire, turning it into a raging inferno. In a blink of an eye, the entire forest was ablaze. Chapter 19: The Balrog that continuously evolves and splits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, the scariest thing about Pyro isn't its ability to absorb flammable materials and gain intelligence as it transforms. The real problem is that it can reproduce. The picture showed the fire creature, after devouring tons of vegetation, undergoing a transformation of its massive sparks. These sparks twisted and compressed, eventually forming limbs. The resulting body looked remarkably human, except that it was entirely engulfed in flames, inside and out, but it didn't stop there. Pyro then violently exploded, sending out a number of sparks. These sparks landed and began to morph into human-like figures, resembling the initial burning creature. This is what makes these fire creatures so troublesome. One represents a whole race, constantly dividing and multiplying. If even one gets loose, there's no stopping the fire it will cause, and sure enough, as more and more of these fire creatures appeared, the already intense blaze spiraled out of control, spreading towards nearby towns. When firefighters saw the sheer scale of the inferno, they mobilized every available resource to douse the flames, but against such a massive fire, their efforts were futile. The water they sprayed was a drop in the bucket compared to the sea of fire engulfing the surrounding. Mountains and forests, and it couldn't contain the spread. Worse yet, there was something even more terrifying brewing within the blaze. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh, star, multiple fireballs launched from the inferno, striking buildings, vehicles, and streets. Explosions erupted everywhere, catching passers-by in the blast. Caught off guard, people froze in shock. Before they could react, more fireballs rained down, but this time, the target was the firefighters' equipment: water cannons, fire hydrants, fire trucks. Anything providing a water source was destroyed, crippling the firefighters' ability to fight the flames. Without their only means of defense, the firefighters looked on in horror. Before they could recover, they saw figures leaping out of the sea of fire. They were monsters, humanoid but over 6 feet tall, completely consumed by flames. These fire creatures then attacked the firefighters, absorbing them as fuel to grow stronger before moving on. Each step ignited a new fire. Stray sparks turned into roaring flames. Spotting a suitable target, the creatures pounced and devoured, expanding the fire's reach. Some tried to fight back, but the pyros were fire. No attack worked. Even explosions just scattered them into sparks that quickly reformed. In less than half an hour, more than half of the once peaceful town was a burning hellscape. But it wouldn't end there. As long as a pyro remained and flammable materials were still around, they would continue their relentless hunt. Eventually, the entire country would be engulfed in flames. Many watched in stunned silence as the pyros wreaked havoc. Nobita. Is this some kind of ghost? A will-o'-the-wisp come to life. Strange, this is no ghost. This is a monster. Bruce Wayne, this is a modern city's worst nightmare. Flammable materials are everywhere: car fuel, trees, even people. If we don't find a way to stop these things, they'll burn the whole country to the ground. Natasha, but how? With a fire that big, there aren't enough firefighters. Ju Hoshiden, we'd need a miracle, like a massive downpour. Mordo, the worst part is they can reproduce. If even one gets away, it'll happen all over again. Sun Wukong, reproduce, huh? Kind of like Piccolo back in the day. Piccolo. Marvel Universe, s.h.i.l.d. Contact every fire station immediately and put them on high alert. Use whatever authority you need. Nick Fury acted fast. The moment a pyro appeared, local fire departments and agents would be ready to contain it. He wouldn't give the fire a chance to spread. Kamartaj. This is nothing to worry about. Gui coolly waved her fan. She had plenty of ways to handle these things. It was fire, after all. Water would do the trick. Asgard. Pyro. Reminds me of Surtur. Odin stared at the screen, lost in thought. He'd fought similar beings who wielded fire, but Surtur was on a solar level, with power beyond comprehension, far more dangerous than this so-called pyro. A bunch of little fire guys. No big deal. If they show up, I'll smash them with my hammer. Thor brushed it off. He couldn't see these fire creatures posing much of a threat. Brother, did you even see that they're immortal? Hitting them with a hammer will just scatter them. How does that stop them? Loki sighed. Relax, there's always a way. Sol wasn't worried, just blindly confident. We believe in Lord Thor. His allies chimed in. Loki couldn't help but roll his eyes again. DC Universe. Diana watched the screen intently, thinking hard. If they appear, how should I fight them? Normal attacks seem useless. Diana weighed different strategies, her warrior spirit stirring. She found these immortal, multiplying creatures interesting. Naruto Universe, in a tavern. That's one scary monster. If you run into one, you'd better be ready with some serious water ninjutsu. Tsunade spoke gravely. Water jutsu alone isn't enough. You need a massive scale. Jiraiya emphasized, his face grim. Reaching that scale would require an insane amount of chakra. An amount that, unless, Jiraiya glanced at Naruto, only the Ninetales chakra could release water on that scale, but how could the Ninetales help? Naruto couldn't control its power. Let's hope they don't show up here. Otherwise, we're screwed. As the fire on screen raged closer to consuming the town, Containment Association planes reappeared. Unlike last time, this time there were several, each towing an iron cable. The cables were all connected to the same massive device. It looked like a radar, but far more advanced. Weather control weapon deployed. Initiating weather modification. The device's surface pulsed with light, as if starting up. Then, the radar emitted strange waveforms into the sky. In an instant, dark clouds covered the night sky, blocking out the reflected firelight. Chapter 20 Weather Control Weapon, Excited Stark. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sky turned dark and stormy, and the rain started coming down in buckets. With the first drop, the fiery hellscape began to cool. The raging sea of fire started to die down under the downpour, shrinking steadily. Aerg, that the burning figures roared in agony. The heavy rain seemed to be eating them alive, their bodies shrinking rapidly. They desperately hurled fireballs at the transport planes and weather control devices in the sky. They had to take out those machines before they were completely extinguished. But the rain was a major problem. Their fireballs fizzled out quickly in the deluge, barely traveling any distance, and even if a fireball managed to hit a plane or device, it wouldn't even scratch the specially reinforced hulls. The shelter used the best materials to build those vehicles, specifically for dealing with crises, making them nearly indestructible. Seeing their attacks were useless, the fire creatures scattered in all directions, trying to escape the rain, but the storm was too widespread, far exceeding the area of the initial blaze. The torrential downpour triggered massive flash floods, further weakening the flames. The pyro men's shrinking forms retreated. The several-meter-tall monsters withered and shrunk. They couldn't even maintain a human shape. Finally, the sea of fire that had engulfed the forest and town was gone. What remained was a flood, and the survivors struggled against the churning water. For them, it was a night of non-stop disasters. First the fire, then the monsters, and now this flood. Just surviving felt like a victory. Once the fire was out, the weather control device kicked back in, stopping the rain. Then the shelter's mobile task force showed up, beginning the search and rescue operation for any trace of the burning men. The once arrogant and terrifying pyro men were now reduced to tiny sparks, seemingly harmless. But anyone who had witnessed their power knew better. They had split up beforehand, with hundreds of sparks hidden in the shadows. As task force members found them, they blasted them with high-pressure water cannons, or captured them in sealed containers. For now, the threat of the pyro men was over. The audience had thoughts. Tony Stark, what kind of device makes it rain like that? It's beyond normal cloud seeding. Bruce Wayne, it's more than that. It's directly manipulating natural weather patterns. Tony Stark, I can't believe they have weapons like that. Nami, weather control. Sounds like my climate act. Nick Fury, huh? You can control the weather. Nami, not exactly. I just use the climate act to create the weather. Natasha, what's a climate act? Nami, it's a stick with gadgets inside that can make weather. Tony Stark, lady, don't be ridiculous. A stick can't control the weather. Usopp, hey. If you don't know, keep quiet. It's my greatest invention. Inside the Marvel private jet star. Tony Stark ignored Usopp and Nami. He didn't buy the magic stick theory for a second. But that weather control weapon is something else. The image of the sleek device on the screen fueled Stark's ambition. It was way more powerful than any military weather weapon. As an inventor, he couldn't resist. If they could build it, so could he. Jarvis, start a research project on weather weapons. And prep artificial rainfall devices, just in case these burning men show up here. Tony Stark ordered, his expression serious. Without that weapon, he'd have to rely on artificial rainfall if things got hairy. DC Batman base star. Lucius, start a project to develop a weather control device. For firefighting. Imagine how easy it would be to just make it rain. Lucius wanted to swear. Equipping firefighters with weather control devices? That's insane. Now, run simulations to predict where this pyro man will appear. Everyone watched the screen, waiting. And Lucius, get Wayne Enterprises rainfall equipment ready. It might come in handy. Master, are you afraid of fire? Why are we always dealing with firefighting stuff? Lucius grumbled. Don't worry about it. Just do it. Bruce Wayne couldn't explain, so he dodged the question, *marvels s.h.i.l.d*. Is the artificial rainfall device ready? Nick Fury asked Hill. It is, but it's a national asset. Deploying it will cause a lot of commotion. Hill reminded him. Unplug the phones then. Nick Fury's deadpan reply made the agents nearby cringe, Doraemon World Star. What if that monster shows up? Nobita asked nervously. Relax. It's just weather control. I've got that covered. Doraemon replied casually, if the Pyro Man showed up, he'd just whip out his weather controller, which was lighter and easier to use than containment procedures. Nobita sighed with relief. With Doraemon around, he didn't have to worry about anything. Dragon Ball World Star. Uncle Piccolo, what do we do if that monster appears? Son Gohan asked, looking scared. No big deal. I'll just blast it with a ki blast. Or I can just summon the ocean and drown them. Piccolo scoffed, then gazed at the sky. The Scions were a far greater threat than some fire people. Pirate World, Navy Headquarters Star. If it shows up here, keep it close, but close enough that a Kiji can get there quickly. Warring States mused, he figured a Kiji could handle any fire creature. He was almost eager for the Pyro Man to appear. It was an enemy the Navy could take on, earning them rewards and prestige. Leo World. Zhu Xingtuan and Feng Yuan weren't concerned. Feng Yuan could just turn into Leo and blast the fire creature with ultra water. Easy win, easy rewards. Prediction complete. The Pyro Man will appear in the world of Naruto.